Okay, so guys, we are going to represent quadratic functions in different ways. We have standard form, which we're familiar with seeing. We're familiar with seeing the factored form, and we're familiar with graphing them. Today, we're going to introduce how to show it in vertex form. So the convenient thing about vertex form is when you look at it, you'll be able to immediately know what the vertex is. That's why we call it vertex form. So before we start, I'm going to go ahead and review what we already know. If I want to put this into factored form, I would need two numbers that would multiply to give me 15, but combine to give me -8. What are those two numbers? Perfect. -5 times -3 is 15, and if you combine them, you'll get -8. So the factored form is x minus 5 and x minus 3. That is the factored form of this quadratic. Now, if I want to graph this, all I have to do is solve, okay? So I can do x minus 5 equals 0, and I'm going to set this factor equal to 0, and then I'll solve it. So I get x is 5, and I get x is 3. So these are my solutions. These are my solutions. What did we say solutions are also known as? X-intercepts or zeros. You can also call them zeros. You can also call them roots. So now, guys, I know what my x-intercepts are. So I'm going to go ahead and plot them on my graph. That is why factored form is convenient. You can easily figure out what your x-intercepts are. Looking at the standard form, I really don't know anything besides the fact it's going to face upward, right? Because it's not negative. It'll face something like that. But if I put it in factored form, I can easily tell what my x-intercepts will be. Now, let's look at the vertex form. I'm going to show you two ways on how to do this, and you can pick whichever method you prefer. Okay, so what I'm going to do, if I want the vertex, I'm going to find the x value of the vertex by doing -b divided by 2a. Okay, so let's look at the standard form. And I'm talking about the coefficients here. This is the A term, the B term, and the C term. So looking at standard form, what is my B value? -8. So that means if I plug in a -8 here, I'll erase the B, and I'll put a -8 there. And what's my A value? I want the coefficient good. That would be 1. So I'm going to erase the A, and I'm going to put a 1 there. What is the x value of my vertex? It should be 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So I know the x value of my vertex. What we're going to do to find the y value of the vertex is we're just going to plug this in to my standard form here. So that's how I'll find the y value. So let's plug in the 4. This will be 4 squared minus, 8 times 4 plus 15. So 4 squared is 16 minus 32 plus 15. 16 minus 32 is -16, and -16 plus 15 is -1. So that is the y value of my vertex. Now, the formula for vertex form, it'll be y equals, A stands for your vertical stretch or compress. The h is your vertex, the x value of your vertex, and the k is the y value of the vertex. This is the standard form for a vertex equation. So let's go ahead and erase my vertex. Substitute the vertex. So I'm going to erase h, and I'm going to erase k, and I'll put what I found. My vertex is 4 and -1. And the a value, what was my a value up here? It was 1. So the a value is 1. You really don't have to write 1. You can if you want to. The 1 doesn't have to be there. But this is your form. This is the vertex form. Okay? So the formula is negative b over 2a to find the x value of the vertex. Then plug that in to find the y value. Okay, once you have it, we can go ahead and plot the vertex. So my vertex was 4, -1, and that makes sense because this went right 4, down 1. So my vertex is at 4, 1, right there, 4, -1. So my graph will look like that. So the good thing about vertex form is it shows you where your vertex is, and the good thing about factored form is it tells you where your x-intercepts are, so you can easily graph. Let's do number 2. So let's go ahead and do vertex form. I'm going to do it both ways. I'm going to do it the method I just showed you, and then I'm going to show you another way. Okay? Actually, let's do this problem again, but I'm going to do the different way, so you can see the 2 different ways to do this. Okay, so I'm going to do this one again, but I'm going to show you a different method. Okay, you don't have to copy this, just watch. So, vertex form. I have x squared minus 8x plus 15. That's the standard form. What we're doing, what's half of -8? Okay, so I'm going to put -4 there. What's 4 squared? So I'm going to subtract 16. 15 minus 16 is -1. That's your vertex form. And that's what we got previously. That's what we got previously. Okay? So the math behind that, that's a quick trick. But the math that's happening behind the scenes, let me show you. What they are doing here is they're completing the square. Okay, so this is the standard form. What they did, they took half of it and then they squared it. You said the squared is 16. So what they're doing here is they're putting a 16 in here, and then they're subtracting a 16. So it's like it never happened, because 16 minus 16 is 0. Do you see that part? They put in a 16 and then they're taking away a 16. And what they're doing is they're separating it. They're grouping this together, and then they factor it. So if we did a little eye chart, I need 2 numbers that multiply to give you 16, but combine to give you -8. -4 and -4. Okay, so that means my factors are x minus 4 and x minus 4, which is what I have here. I have 2 of them. Since it's the same, you can just write it as squared and write it 1 time. Okay? And then so we grouped that together. That's why we have that. And then 15 minus 16 is just -1. That's why we have this part of our answer and then the -1. So that's the math that's happening behind the scenes. Okay? All right, so that's another way to do vertex form. You can do whichever way you prefer. Okay, now let's do a second example. Let's do example number 2. All right. So example number 2. I'm going to go ahead and do the vertex form again. So I need -b over 2a to find the x value of my vertex. So what is my b value? -4, it's right here. So I'm going to erase that b, and I'm going to put a -4 there. And what's the a value? -2. So erase that a, and I'm going to put a -2 there. Okay, so what would this become? Is it -1? No. Yep, okay. So we'll get -1. And now let's find the y value. So plug it back in. We'll get -1 squared minus 4 times -1 plus 6. Okay, -1 squared is 1 times -2 is -2. This will become a +4. It looks like our answer is 8. So that is the y value of your vertex. Now just put it in vertex form. So I know it's going to go like that. Okay, so I put my -1 in there, but remember, it'll be a +1. Do we know why? is going to the left one up 8. So you're going to have a +1 in there. But remember, guys, the formula is minus h. And I'm replacing the h with a -1. That's why it becomes a +1 in there. So that's why we just have a big old plus sign. Okay? And then what was my a value? -2. Okay, so this is our answer. That is the answer in vertex form. So let's go ahead and plot the vertex. The vertex is at -1, 8. So that's way up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right here. That's our vertex. I know it's going to face down because this quadratic has a negative in front. Okay, so let's do factored form. Factored form, I can divide all of these by a -2. Before I get started, I'm going to divide all of these by a -2. So we'll have a -2 on the outside. So we pulled out a -2. And then I just go back to my little eye chart. I need two numbers that will multiply to -3, but combine to give me 2. Yep, 3 and -1. 3 times -1 is -3. 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay, so those are my two numbers. So I'll put -2 on the outside. And then my factors are x + 3 and x - 1. And you can set it equal to 0 to solve what your x-intercepts will be. So I'll set this factor equal to 0, x + 3 equal to 0. So when I solve, I'll get x is equal to -3. And when I solve this one, I'll get x is equal to 1. So I'll go ahead and plot my x-intercepts. I have a solution at -3 and a solution at 1. So that is what my graph will look like. Let me show you guys the other way if you want to do vertex form the other method. Let me show you how that would be done. Okay, so let me do it for this one. Okay, so vertex form for this problem here. First, I need to divide everything by a -2. So I'll have -2 on the outside, and this is x squared plus 2x minus 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and do vertex form. X squared plus 2x. Oh, I need more space. Minus 3. Okay, so guys, what's half of 2? 1, so it'll be x + 1 squared. What is 1 squared? 1, so I'm going to subtract 1 from here. -3 minus 1 is -4. Now remember, we have a -2 on the outside, so I'm going to put that -2 on the outside. And then I distribute it in. So -2 times this, I'll just put -2 on the outside. And then -2 times -4 is +8. So this is your vertex form. And then you would plot your vertex. This went left 1 up 8. Left 1 up 8 is right there. So I know it's going to face down like that. Okay, we graphed it perfectly on the last slide. Okay, one more thing that I just want to show you because everyone has a question on this. This one down here, question number 3, the third row. If you want to put this into vertex form, into standard form, you just need to multiply this out. So this says -x - 7 squared. Okay, so that means you'll have x - 7 times x - 7 because it says squared. You have 2 of them. There's a negative in the front. Oh, it won't let me draw it. It's too. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me rewrite it. I'll write it over here. So we have a negative in the front, x - 7 times x - 7 plus 1. Okay, so now just FOIL. X times x is x squared. X times -7 is -7x. -7 times x is -7x. -7 times -7 is 49. So I have all of this together, and there's a negative on the outside, right? The negative goes with these, okay? And I have a +1. Now just distribute that negative. Actually, can we combine the middle? So -7x minus 7x, this will be -14. So let's combine like terms. Now you just distribute the negative in. So this will be -x squared, positive 14x, minus 49. This negative will go to everything. And then you have to add a +1. So then your final would be x squared plus 14x minus 48. Oh, there's a negative right there. So this would be your standard form that goes in this box. I didn't have enough space. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here. You guys can do the rest of this. I'll be walking around if you need any help. Okay, so we have the standard form right here. I'm going to write that in the correct box. So standard form, when you multiply it all out, you get -x squared plus 14x minus 48. And the work for that is right here. Okay? So now if I want to get factored form, I'll show my work for that. So the standard form, I'm just going to write it again. Standard form is -x squared plus 14x minus 48. All of these can be divided by a -1. So -1 is on the outside. I have x squared minus 14x plus 48. Now I'll go ahead and do my eye chart. I need two numbers that multiply to give me 48, combine to give me -14. And those will be -8 and -6. So those are my two factors. -1 is on the outside, and then I have x minus 8, and then x minus 6. So if I want to graph it, you can just solve. Hopefully you know the shortcut by now. If you put an 8 here, it would be 0. So I'm going to have 8 be one of my factors. One of my solutions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right here. And then the other one would be 6. Oh, it's going to disappear because it's too close to the edge. Oh, that worked. And 6. Oh, it's disappearing on me. Okay, I'll write it like this then. I don't know if y'all can see that on the PowerPoint, but those are where my two x values are. And then guys, my vertex, yeah, it disappeared. It's okay. My vertex is going to be opposite of this number because it went to the right. So this will be 7 and 1. So go over to 7 and 1, which is right here. That's your vertex, and it'll go. Oh, it disappeared. That's okay. But anyway, guys, that's how you do it. Oh, let me just do it on here. Let's see. Okay, so my x-intercept is right here at 8. Let me draw it again. So my x-intercept is here at 8 and 6, and my vertex was at 7, 1. So that's what my graph would look like. Any other questions, guys? Okay. Okay, this last question. My vertex form is actually the exact same thing. It tells me my transformations, it went left 4, and it didn't go up or down. So that's why there's nothing here. You can add a +0 if you want to, but you don't have to. So my vertex and my x-intercept is right there. And I know it's going to face down because there's a negative in front. And then if I wanted to multiply it out, I could. X plus 4 squared means I'm going to have it twice. So this will be x plus 4 times x plus 4. That's what this will multiply out to be. So this is your standard form, this is your vertex form, and this is your factored form.